What's going on, everybody? My name is John Bautista, and I'm your co host for the Marriage Savvy podcast. On today's show, we're going to continue talking about the Marriage Rescue Program. And this is part 3 of a 4-part series going over phase 1 in this Marriage Rescue Program. Phase 1 called triage. Essentially, we are stopping the bleeding. Now, this is not going to save your marriage by manipulation or lying or faking your way through it, but if your marriage can be saved, it will happen because you have taken a good look at the relationship and learned how you have shown up ineffectively. We are bringing back Amanda Richardson, and you don't want to miss it coming up on today's show. The Marriage Savvy podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be used to diagnose, treat, or act as medical advice. Always seek the advice of your primary care physician, mental health professional, or qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition and/or mental illness. Welcome back to the show, Amanda. Why don't you go ahead and start us off with the next set of tools here for phase 1?
So the last 2 episodes, we talked about 10 of the tools from the Rescue ebook, starting with the first 5 and just kind of summarizing on pressing pause before it's too late. We went through 5 great tools that are helpful, and then we dove into 5 more that was more towards mindset. So today we're going to dive into 5 more tools leading up to the total 20. And with today's episode, just covering rebuilding trust and curiosity. So breaking old patterns and planting seeds of safety and connection in the relationship.
Man, that sounds like a huge turning point, like in the first phase.
Yes, it is a big turning point. And as you mentioned that, I also thought it might be helpful for our audience if we loop back to the 10th tool that we talked about in last episode.
Okay.
And that was friend zoning your spouse. We
Oh yeah,
talked
I was
about
really confused about that one. How do you friend zone somebody?
right. It's really just going back to building the friendship, building back what you each liked in each other, focusing on the positive, dropping the anxiety driven need to feel loved, right? Because the leaning out spouse isn't in a I love you phase,
Yeah,
even though the one trying to save the marriage may be wanting to desperately say, I love you, that this isn't a time to
it's not
say
gonna
it.
work.
No, but it is a
Yeah,
time to be kind, be fun if possible, smile, be positive, bring back some joy. It also might be a time that you, the leaning in spouse, might be tempted to bring up sex, even potentially use sex as a tool or a way to grow closer to the leaning out spouse.
yeah,
So that was one point that I just wanted to make, that we're not going to say don't do it, but definitely evaluate yourself and your motivations and where the relationship is and what the leaning out spouse is telling you. And if you're trying to use sex as a way to get closer or bring them back into the relationship, it's not a good idea. We'd say put a pause on having sex for now.
yeah,
And then if maybe even the leaning out spouse is pursuing, trying to continue having sex, that might be something that you, the leaning in spouse, wants to evaluate. Am I open to this? Is this crossing a boundary for me? Especially if there's a known affair involved, that could
oh
be
yeah,
crossing a line or something that you'd want to consider and maybe talk to a coach about.
yeah. Now, that's super helpful because we never want to use sex to manipulate somebody. I know that that's a pretty pervasive idea or maybe even behavior in our cultures, that we use sex to get closer to people or just to get people, like in general, unfortunately. And that's just not the way that our bodies are designed. Like, they're designed to feel loved and to feel accepted and to feel seen. And um, if you were to do that in the midst of a really huge trial like potential divorce, I mean, that can be really disruptive long term.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So, what are some things that you would recommend for somebody who maybe, let's just say that they're being pursued by the person who's wanting the divorce?
Mhm.
what would they need to look out for or question if they should get involved in sex again?
Yeah. They should really pay attention to what they're feeling, right? We always say go inside first. And if they're feeling any kind of disconnection or even, ugh, I feel like I'm being used. This doesn't feel genuine. I don't feel safe and close to my partner. That's the time to put pause on it and then even be vulnerable and let your partner know I'm not comfortable right now. I'd love to talk to you about it if you want to talk about it, or let's just put it on pause until the relationship changes. And I would love to be comfortable in the future, something like that.
Yeah. No, that's good because I would probably assume that the partner who is receiving the information about divorce would also want the same in return. Like if they're pursuing their partner who wants a divorce and that person says no, I don't want to, uh, it would be helpful to know why, right? Hey,
Right.
I'm just not there, and I can't do this because if I were to do this, I would be using you just for temporary satisfaction, right?
Yeah.
So
So
it would be,
honest.
yeah, it would be helpful just to communicate
Yes.
if you're making a decision, especially in times like this. It would be helpful for you to communicate why you're deciding, and even saying, you know what, I honestly don't know. I just know that I just feel weird about it.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
That would be really helpful.
Yes.
It's setting a boundary,
Oh,
which
that's
is
true. Yeah.
showing respect for yourself and the relationship.
Yeah. That's helpful. All right. Well, I'm excited to jump into these next 5 tools. Now, if you missed any of the 10 tools that were described earlier in our previous episodes, you want to check them out. So far, we've gone through 10. We're going to go through another 10, starting with this 5 in this episode. And guys, these were created, these were developed by our founder and CEO, Kim Bowen, whenever she was going through her own marital difficulties and considering divorce. So, man, this is just going to be so personal and relatable. All right.
Yeah. So we're going to start with 11, stop the snooping. And man, that can be so hard if you're finding yourself in a situation where maybe you suspect that your spouse is having an affair, or you're just so confused because your spouse has changed their behaviors or is just acting different or has said they're not happy, and you get all up in your head and want to figure this out, right? So
Yeah.
you start snooping, and the problem is it's also crossing a boundary. Even if your spouse is their behavior maybe is crossing a line, is not something that it's something that they've said they wouldn't do or that you've agreed would not happen in the relationship, they have free will. They're responsible for their behavior, and if you go snooping in their phone or snooping through their social media or even putting up cameras, you're crossing that boundary of their
Oh, wow.
personal space, their privacy.
Yeah. Snooping comes from like that behavior is motivated by what feeling would you say?
I'd say anxiety, fear.
Okay, yeah. So anxiety, fear, like there could be more. Like, what am I missing? Are all my bases covered? With did they tell me everything?
Mhm.
Right? Wouldn't somebody want to know? It's like, hey, well, if you want me to stay in this, then I would need to know everything.
So it is different. And like we've said, every situation and relationship is unique. So
Yeah,
if an affair is a deal breaker for you, and you know you've done the work, you've gone inside, and you know if you find out that your spouse is having an affair, that you're done with the relationship, then you're not on the marriage rescue mission anymore. And I mean, snoop all you want, you might find some things that you really don't want,
uh,
but maybe you'll get the information you need to move forward. But if, and our clients typically are coming to see us because they want to save their marriage
yeah,
regardless if there's an affair. And so no matter what they discover, they still want to save their marriage. So we'd say stop the snooping because you don't want to see a video of your spouse doing something that you can't unsee, right?
yeah, yeah.
So
And that's helpful to have that boundary in place for yourself. Is this something that uh, helps me right now? Is this something that helps the relationship right now? Sometimes it isn't, and it's also helpful to understand that a deal breaker is something that, like, if this doesn't occur, you can no longer stay in it for whatever reason. But
Right.
I really appreciate the fact that you said first go internally before you make that decision, right? Before you make the decision of a deal breaker, you go inward and self-reflect to make sure that you're saying this out of all honesty and transparency and values, and not my anxiety. What did I miss? Are they
Right.
telling me the truth? Is there anything else?
Hmm.
Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay, cool. All right, so what's the next tool?
So the next tool is number 12, try something new. So, thinking about when you're in a relationship for any period of time, you kind of memorize each other's behaviors, patterns. You can kind of even predict what your spouse is going to do if you leave the socks on the floor, or what they're going to want to eat tonight, or if they're going to show up late, right? You kind of can predict. And so the whole idea around this tool is to change it up. Study your spouse, understand they've probably told you before some things that are annoying that you do. Well, stop doing those because
Yeah,
they're probably predictable, right? Also just noticing that, hey, my spouse is really maybe into working out. Maybe I want to try, see if that's something that I enjoy too. You don't, it's an experiment, right?
yeah,
But you're observing, you're learning about yourself and your spouse and the relationship with every little experiment. If it goes
yeah,
well, if they seem to warm up to you and show interest, maybe do a little more of that. And if it doesn't, stop doing that and try something else.
yeah. This sounds like more trial and error.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, and being comfortable with the error,
That's
right?
hard, but that's what we talk a lot about too in coaching is, and we'll talk about it in one of the other tools, is being prepared to fail. You're not going to get it perfect, but that's how we learn.
Yeah, and I can understand like you want to get it perfect because so much is on the line.
Hmm.
But I think that there's also an understanding that you're human too, and you make mistakes, right? And not
That's right.
everybody gets it right, especially the first time around.
That's
Okay, so
right.
you know what? This tool reminds me of something Kim said. You probably know his name, but the guy's name is Stan
Tatkin.
Tatkin. All right, so
Mhm.
Kim said this earlier in an episode, probably in season one. She said that if you want to develop love, or rebuild that sense of love for your spouse, then to try new experiences in order to see them in a different way, like in a different context.
Yes.
Why is that so helpful for us?
Because you're building either the positive vibes and feelings for your spouse or the negatives, right? And if we
Yeah.
can look at them in a different light, have a new experience with them, then we're building new memories, new connections.
Oh, that's
There's
right.
Stan talks about all the neurological, I don't know all the science behind it, and he has some big words, but basically you're increasing the attraction anytime you spend time with someone doing something positive. Don't you kind of want to do a little bit more of that?
Yeah. Especially if you're creating new positive experiences, new positive memories, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is helpful for people that may be finding themselves in a rut, especially if you're in a situation where the divorce is on the table now. If you're finding yourself, from what I'm hearing you say, in a rhythm that's predictable, and maybe even that's negative for the relationship right now, then yeah, trying something different, trying something new could be really helpful. Just like you said, it gives opportunities for new experiences and new memories.
That's right. And as you're experimenting, trying some new things, you can observe different signs and behaviors in your leaning out spouse that indicate, maybe this is having a positive impact. Maybe they're slightly starting to soften or warm up.
Yeah,
So, some of those things that you could be looking for is maybe increased eye contact. Maybe they're just hanging around more.
yeah,
Maybe they're smiling more. Maybe they're a little bit more affectionate.
yeah. All of that is opportunity with new opportunities.
Right, right. It's just a little glimmer of hope that, hey, what I'm doing is working.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, so Tool 13 is all about the kids and keeping the kids out of really this marriage rescue process, really trying to protect them from your emotions, from what's going on, right? Because the kids, your job is to take care, protect the kids, not the other way around, and letting them know that, hey, mom and dad are struggling, mom and dad are maybe even breaking up is going to cause big time anxiety in a child when maybe it doesn't even need to be brought up because eventually the relationship may turn around.
Right.
A time to bring it up because we don't say don't ever tell them, but if the relationship does get to the point where somebody is moving out, there's a big change that impacts the kids, then you would want to have some conversations, age appropriate, and our coaches are trained and equipped to guide you through that process.
Yeah. That's so important because I know that a lot of kids from what I've learned through sessions is that a lot of kids tend to look inwardly and say this is all my fault. So if
Yes.
they hear a divorce, if they, hear it from a family member, like they think, man, what did I do? Am I causing this? Especially if there's like a lot of yelling and fighting, and like it's understandable that somebody would internalize that.
Oh, absolutely. And what's happening in the marriage relationship, it's big adult feelings and experiences and behaviors that kids just aren't equipped to process or handle. So bringing them into it is going to cause more harm than good. Now, if they do pick up on some things and have questions, absolutely answer it in a age appropriate way, but don't bring them in, oh, I'm crying because dad isn't talking to me, because that becomes where it's a burden on the child. And Kim had a really good quote. I wrote it down. She says, forcing kids to take adult roles creates adults who act like kids.
Man, let's let that sink in a little bit. Can you
Right?
say it again?
Yeah. Forcing kids to take on adult roles creates adults who act like kids.
Man.
We want to protect our kids. It's our job to protect them from the difficulties that are happening in our adult relationships. They can understand that it's work, but we want them to feel as free to just be a kid and not take care of our emotions. It's our job to teach them how to take care of their emotions, not the other way around.
Mm, that's good to highlight because we don't ever want to put them in the middle. And I
That's
think
right.
sometimes we feel like, well, if my kids will just let my partner know how much this means to me, they'll listen to the kids, right?
Mhm.
But once again, that's kind of not kind of, that is manipulating them.
It is. And it will hurt your relationship with them. It will hurt them long term. It's just not necessary and it's not helpful.
Yeah, man, that's tough. But that's actually a really good point to make.
Basically, it's saying putting them in a situation where they have to carry our pain, carry our feelings and burdens. That's putting them in an adult role. It creates adults that act like kids. It's stunning their growth.
Mm,
Kids need to be kids.
yeah, they need to be kids.
Mhm.
Man, that's so important. Okay, what tool do you have for us next?
Okay, 14 is get out of autopilot. It's not too different from the doing something different because you're really again trying to change it up, break the patterns, um, addressing maybe the things that your spouse has complained about in the past. Man, the laundry's never done. Okay, let's get out of autopilot of never doing the laundry and let's have the laundry done. You
Yeah.
know,
What are some things that people normally put on autopilot?
I think a lot of times respect gets put on autopilot. We're not really paying attention to how we're coming across to our spouse. And so, I mean, just even the daily greeting and acknowledging each other as we come and go, like that level of respect, I think
Yeah.
people put it on autopilot and don't make it a priority. And
Yeah.
so we're just crossing each other in the hallway and not even making eye contact.
Yeah, and that kind of reminds me of like even eating together is put on pilot. Like,
Mhm.
when people get home maybe for dinner, and if they have kids, they'll feed everybody, and they feed themselves, and they're so tired from everything. Like, who wants to talk?
Right.
Well, the kids do, but do,
Yes.
do you want to spend more energy after a long day, uh, as an adult wanting to talk? Probably not.
Yeah.
And that's a
Everyone's different. So
yeah,
this is a really good time to assess what is healthy in our relationship. What does my spouse maybe need more of or less of based on what they've been telling me, what their pain point is. If the spouse's complaint is they're feeling suffocated, well then don't insist that maybe they have dinner with you or they spend more time with you because they're feeling suffocated.
yeah,
Maybe the getting out of autopilot for you would be to give them more space. But if they're saying, "Man, we never spend any time together. You don't ever talk to me." Okay, then let's try turning that around.
yeah. Maybe leaning into an opportunity for conversation, right?
Yes.
Or like a intentional time of just listening to your spouse or hearing about their day.
Getting curious.
Yeah, getting curious.
What is going well? What
Mm,
isn't going well?
yeah. Is there anything that I can do to support you in this?
Yeah, what's one thing?
Yeah, what's one thing? Yeah, and just starting with that one thing is so helpful. I think, the times that I've asked clients to ask their partners if there's one thing that they can do to support them, they said, "Man, I never really asked that before," and it's really started some good conversations.
Yes. Part of being on autopilot is being unaware, just doing the same thing over and over again.
Oh, that's a good observation.
Just because you like something doesn't mean your spouse does, but you might keep doing that thing. Example, you could be sending flowers all the time, but your spouse doesn't even like flowers. You weren't aware of that. You didn't get curious to ask, "Hey, when I send flowers, how does that feel to you? I'm just curious."
Oh, that's a really good insight to have. Is instead of just doing things, do them and then ask questions about it.
Yeah, how did it feel?
Yeah, how did this land with you? What would land better?
Mhm.
What would help contribute to your sense of love in this relationship?
Yes. Or
Okay.
what is super annoying to you?
Yeah.
Tell me about that, and then
Yeah.
work on stopping it.
Yeah. Do you leave the socks everywhere?
Yeah.
Do you know how gray white socks can get? Do you know how much gray I see on the floor? No, that's disgusting. Okay, so we're going into our last tool for this episode, and what you have written down is be patient. So this is going to be
Yes.
probably really crucial, just because you're in the midst of it, of a really tough situation, and you're asking clients to be patient. Talk about that.
Mm. So hard to be patient when there is so much on the line, right? Then you may feel the stress and the pressure. And so, working with a coach to slow down, to really go inside, realizing this isn't a quick fix. However long it took your spouse, and this might be something to reflect on, every situation's different, but however long it took them to get to where they are to say, I'm unhappy, or I'm in an affair, or I want out, it's going to probably take about that much time to turn things around, to make enough change and impact to for them to feel safe enough to build the trust and the respect to possibly lean back in. It's going to take time. It could be weeks for some, which is amazing. If it's just weeks, that's great.
Yeah.
But for others, it's months or
Mm,
more.
yeah. And that's really important for people to understand, is that no marriage is the same and no partner is the same. I think, understanding that things might take a little bit longer, depending on how impacted they were by whatever's going on.
That's right.
And not only that, like each partner is well, let's just say that, the partner who is being handed this idea of divorce, all these tools that you're talking about, like they're catching up with understanding themselves
Yes.
for them to understand their partner better.
That's
or to
right.
show up for their partner better. So how, I mean, just to understand, there's an expectation that people place on themselves that I need to get this figured out right now or my partner's going to leave. And that's just anxiety talking again.
Yeah, because you don't actually have that kind of control. Your partner has already said they're leaving.
Yeah,
So it would be more helpful to put your energy on what you can control, which is you, how you show up.
that's good. Man, I really appreciate that. As we flesh out these tools, I'm noticing how much they impact the previous tools that we've already talked about.
Yeah, they're all really intertwined, and there's
Yeah,
not even when people are going through this process, it's not sequential. It's not now do one, then two, three. It doesn't work that way. We've said it's unique for each relationship. So you may be doing 5 or 6 at one time. Some may not even apply. It's really different for each individual and relationship. So again, working with a coach is going to be helpful.
not that I anticipated somebody going from 1 through 20
Mhm.
in sequential order, but I I guess I just didn't think somebody could be doing tool 6, 13, and 12. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then going to like 20, 14, and 2.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so that totally makes sense. Well, Manna, thank you so much. We have gone through 15 tools
Woo!
so far, and in our next episode, we're going to cover the last 5.
That's right.
I'm excited.
It's been
I don't
fun,
know.
John.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but man, this has been really encouraging.
It's been real.
Yeah, yeah. As a person who works with couples, and I mean, this is just some good content. So thank you again.
Thank you, John.